Okay, we're going to call the County Council meeting to order. We're going to have a Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Lott. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. And we'll have roll call, Ms. Zimbo.
Mr. Kuzic.
Present.
Mr. Deeb.
Here.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Lott.
Here.
Mr. McGee.
Here.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Here.
Mr. Warner.
Here.
Mr. Rinsky. Here. All present.
Thank you. Now we ask for a motion to approve the minutes of April 18th.
Motion to approve by acclamation.
So moved. Second, Mr. All in favor?
Calendars.
Aye.
Opposed? Pass. All right, now we will have courtesy of the floor. I would ask that, in fairness to all the people, I'll do it in the order it's signed up, and I would ask that you try to limit your comments to 5 minutes, and try not to interrupt anybody because you're just taking away their time, your time. So, all right, first I have Gail Preninger. If I come up and state your name, that way she has it. If I mess it up, it's right.
Hello, my name is Gail Kruninger, and I live at 4004 Hummingbird Lane in Bethlehem Township. I've come here tonight to address the voting machines. I urge you to purchase the voting equipment that uses the marked paper ballots with the optical scanners, as opposed to the voting machine with this where you touch screen the vote and then it's read by barcodes. Lehigh, Monroe, and Montgomery County governments have adopted the paper ballots with the scanners. And if you look on Montgomery County's website, they have a really nice explanation of how their paper ballots work. And I thought that would be a good thing to look at. The paper ballot with the optical scanner is a lot less complex. It has less complex software and hardware, so there it's less prone to programming errors, malicious tampering, hardware failure, and obsolescence due to the vendor security upgrades. Over the long run, I think the paper ballot and the optical scanner equipment will more likely cost less in the long run because it's less complex. Furthermore, voter turnout, defined as a number of voters that can cast their ballots over a specific period of time, is higher. I think it's going to be higher with the marked paper ballots and the optical scanners. Why? Because you can have more private voting booths where people can mark their ballots compared to a private voting booth with electronic scanner. And then after the person marks their ballot in on a paper ballot, they just simply take it to a scanner line and have it scanned quite quickly. And that way, I think that since the voter throughput is going to be a lot faster with a paper ballot, I think with long lines will be reduced during peak voting hours, which is really important. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Now I have Tom Bruno.
Okay, Tom.
Bruno, I saw him sitting there.
Thank you so much for this.
You could just repeat your name for the clerk.
Okay. All right. Good evening. As you know, my name is Tom Bruno. I'm a 27-year citizen of Northampton County. I've been elected the majority inspector of elections for Ward 4 in Easton for the last 5 years. You can imagine my surprise when I read reports that claimed poll workers got a chance to see the new ES&S voting machines and that we all endorsed them. Not only did I not get a chance to see them, I was never consulted, contacted, or asked about them. I would consider that a category of fake news. Having been a poll challenger and poll worker in New Jersey for many years before moving to Pennsylvania, and having been the political director for CWA New Jersey for many years, I've had many dealings with a variety of voting machines and the companies that make them. Of all the companies out there, it surprised me to see ES&S as the front runner, given their less than stellar track record. A simple cursory check of the company's past dealings provides enough issues to make any person with a modicum of integrity cringe at the mention of ES&S machines or any machine that does not provide a paper backup. These machines are simply the wrong choice under any circumstance. Voting's our most sacred right. as citizens. And to hear some decision makers claim that the paper ballots are too cumbersome or too weighty or too time-consuming or too much trouble, and use those lame rationalizations as a reason to sacrifice voter security is as absurd as it is ludicrous. What price is too much to safeguard our vote? Poll workers already carry boxes of paper to and from the polls. Cumbersome or weighty? Please. Time-consuming? So is taking off your shoes and going through a metal detector at the airport. And yet, in the interest of safety and security, we all do it. The excuses are disingenuous at best. In Exhibit 1 of my remarks, you can see the plethora of problems ES&S has been intricately involved with beginning in 1990 through last year's election cycle. Everything from kickbacks and bribes totaling hundreds of thousands of dollars to security glitches, voter integrity issues, miscounted, uncounted votes, voters dropped from rolls. It's a cornucopia of problems. So my elected officials are willing to buy highly expensive machines that have a proven track record of glitches that historically have favored Republicans in states and counties all over the country, or have simply not registered all the votes in certain Democratic strongholds, coincidentally, of course. Machines that light up the Republican candidate when you hit the Democrat's name, or show you voted one way, but then print something entirely different on the tally sheet and barcode. All this from a company that has been involved with bribery and kickback scandals, as well as lying to officials about their machine's integrity and about pre-installing remote access software, like they did in Pennsylvania in 2017, without the knowledge of the customers, which has been demonstrated to be easily hacked, as a matter of fact. And you can find that with a quick read of the report of the Office of the Inspector General from the Department of Homeland Security. Instead, you're willing to sacrifice the sanctity of the voters' rights to honest and secure elections, and for what? Certainly not because ES&S is beyond reproach, and certainly not because their machines are the best or the most secure. The only way to secure the integrity of the electoral process is with machines that provide a paper trail that can be manually read and counted if challenged. Every cybersecurity expert has said this. What's the real reason we're pushing these machines so hard down the collective throat of the county citizens? I know almost every one of you personally. Given this company's track record of lies, deceptions, bribes, kickbacks, and the abundantly clear record of the machines they produce, it simply doesn't pass the smell test. If you have the integrity and the conscience that I believe all of you do, you simply cannot agree to buy these machines. Instead, you should do what the cybersecurity experts have been advising all along: voting machines that employ hard copy ballot backups. Our votes deserve nothing less. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Next, we have, I think it's Mike Schaefer. That looked pretty straightforward.
Hello.
Hi. Just repeat your name for the clerk.
My name is Mike Schaefer, Michael Schaefer, S-C-H-A-F-F-E-R, 350 County Line Road in Riegelsville. So we're all set. So I have 3 quick points. The first one is, according to the FBI, the Russians are coming to a voting machine near you. And according to the press releases from the White House and Department of Justice, their attitude is whatever. So that's the basic threat that we are facing, and we've got nobody to rely on but ourselves. When it comes to software, which I actually started writing back in the 70s, the simpler, the stupider it is, the harder it is to hack or to fiddle with. And that's true of software and hardware. So for that reason, I favor just plain paper ballots. The counting machine is basically just a video camera, and it's counting check marks, and that's very hard to fiddle with. It's very hard to mess with that. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Colleen Gallagher. You could just state your name for the clerk.
Hi, Colleen Gallagher. I live at 357 McKinley Street in Freemansburg. I'm the Inspector of Elections in Freemansburg as well. I was also not consulted about the machines prior to them being becoming knowledge to me. Like once I found out about them, it was too late. Anyway, I work in IT, and I have worked on touchscreen machines before. The calibration of those machines is sketchy at best. They always have issues with calibration. You press one thing, you get something else. That's a bad idea. If we want voters' votes to count, we need to actually make sure that the votes are registered correctly. I believe that the paper ballots would be much more secure. Anything computerized from an IT standpoint can be hacked. There is no secure machine. So paper, you can't hack paper. They mark the ballot, it's marked, that's what it is. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and next we have Kevin Scaglin. Excuse me, if you could just come up and repeat your name.
Hello, my name is Kevin Skoglund from Citizens for Better Elections. I came before and I told you that I am a cybersecurity consultant and also know a lot about voting machines. And I want to thank you for taking the time last time to research this more. I think that was a wise decision. Do your homework and your due diligence. I've had the opportunity to speak to a few of you. I'd be happy to speak to all of you and to talk through it and answer your questions and concerns about this. I agree with everything that everyone has said before me. I'm not going to go into that, though. I want to just, as part of the spirit of giving you some more, due diligence, bring some maps. I know the maps caused quite a stir last time. I definitely did not anticipate that. The maps were intended to show what I was talking about last week, was just counties that have op-scan ability in the precinct to scan a full-size paper ballot if they need to, absentee ballots and such. So I've put together a new map. I've learned from my mistakes and put a label at the top. I took out anyone who's thinking about but has not yet decided on a system. And so that's what that first page is. It's basically the same map from last time, just improved. The second page, though, is what I think everyone thought that map was supposed to mean, which is the difference between hand-marked and machine-marked ballots, and showing the difference between counties that have legacy hand-marked systems that they still have to replace under the governor's directive, and then the counties that have selected new ones. So you'll see there all of the dark green are the ones that have made selections and picked hand-marked paper ballot systems. The light green is ones that have them from before that need to replace, and the red ones are the ones that have picked machine-marked or ballot marking device marked for most voters. Now, all precincts have to have, polling places have to have a ballot marking device in them. We're talking about the primary method that people would use to vote. And then the third map is just to show you kind of vendors and models and what people are picking in other states. So you can see here that all of the blue ones, there's 3 shades of blue, but those are all the ES&S systems. You can see what people are picking. The red ones are Dominion, and the orange ones are Unison. And the reason I put the ES&S in different colors was just so you could see the ones that are in the lightest blue color are the ones that picked hand-marked paper ballots with a DS200 scanner and a small express vote for ADA use only, or primarily. And then the ones that are in the darker blue, the middle blue, are the ones that picked to put express votes in front of everyone. They want to have touch screens for most voters, but they're still going to have that separate DS200 scanning them. It's the same equipment, just flipped around. And then the third one, which is only Philadelphia that's marked on here, and that's the Express Vote XL, the one that you're looking at. So that gives you an idea of what people are picking. The Express Vote and the DS200, those other two that everyone but Philadelphia that's in blue, that's the machine that you guys did not get the opportunity to see because of the snowstorm. So that's the one that Lehigh picked. That's the one that Berks picked. That's that machine. As far as where this comes from, I know that they're calling around to all these counties and everything. I haven't called around to all these counties. That's not where this information came from. It all came from public news reports, and there's URLs listed for where all of that came from. So that's what I'm relying on to know what all these are. So that's item one. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about was the concerning fact that this machine has no track record. It is a brand new machine, and it has barely been used. In the first page you see there is where it announces that it's going to be used in National Park Borough of Gloucester County, New Jersey. This was the first time it was used in a real primary or general election. It was a single polling place, and the second page shows the results from that polling place where 1,010 ballots were cast on it. So that's its track record so far in a primary or general election. Then the second time it was used was not a primary general election, but a special election. In New Jersey, the School Boards Association held a school bond ballot on January 22nd, in Warren County, Oxford Township. It's like a $2 million bond. It's a single issue election, just one thing. You vote yes or no on the bond. That's it. So this is the one that they were talking about last week that had the audit. And the audit performed so well and was so precise, and there were 2 secretaries of state there observing it, so it was real proof that this machine was ironclad. There were 383 ballots cast on it in that election. So that brings our total up to about 1,400, 1,500 votes. And what's notable about it is that it was a tie vote.
30 seconds.
Okay, it was a tie vote. It was 190 to 190, and presumably because it was so close, the audit must have counted all of those ballots to validate it. But what's interesting is that there were 3 undervotes in that race, and that's concerning because that means that voters got up, went to the polls, checked in, went in the voting booth, and then either were confused by the express vote and cast no vote on a single issue election, or they decided they did not want to cast a vote and affirmatively knew I am not casting a vote in this single issue election, even though I showed up, which seems a bit unlikely, or the machine made a mistake. So those are the three possible scenarios, and I'm happy to talk with any of you more details and to elaborate.
Thank you very much.
Guys, one
Oh,
quick
no,
question.
Mr.
What are the
Dees.
white ones or the non-colored?
Those are ones that haven't picked yet. Those are ones that currently have DREs, similar to the Sequoia Advantage and the Danaher machines, and they've not made any selection or given any indication publicly what they're going to do.
Thanks.
Okay. There you go. And now we go to Lorenzo, is it Marinelli? I think I remember you from last time, yes.
Hi, I'm Lorenzo Marinelli. I live in Palmer. My wife is 38 weeks pregnant, so if my phone rings, I'm going to answer it.
You better.
Thank you. One word. I think it's one word. It might be one with a dash. Overcomplication, right? Paper ballots are easier. They can't break. They can't be hacked. We could lose power and still hold an election. The Excel, we've talked about that, right? It can reprint in reverse and change a vote. There's going to be long lines. We know that. If the machine can reprint in reverse and change a vote, what I think, as somebody who has literally dealt with billions of data records, that's my life. I do it 6 to 7 days a week. Did they think about this machine fully, right? They could have just designed it in a circle so that it never could possibly be reprinted. Instead, the machine they designed literally prints out barcodes, which you can't verify as a human being, then passes it through the printer again, right? And then counts your barcode as your vote. It just seems to me that this is like a Frankenstein creation. They didn't really think about it, right? So scanners, they can malfunction. That's in this machine. We can't say that scanners are worse or better. The Excel has a scanner inside it. Touchscreens can fail. Printers can fail. There's just so much overcomplication. Right? I can go on for hours and hours, but the biggest thing is there's just overcomplication. We don't need the overcomplication. We know it's hard to get people to vote. Right? We know there's all these possible things that introduce failure. Let's just get rid of all of that and please go with the paper ballot system. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, now that's the last of those who signed in. Is there anyone else out there who would like to address council? Please come up on any topic, by the way. Please come up and state your name for the clerk. Thank you. We have 5 minutes.
Hi, I'm Janice Hobbs-Palecchio, and you met me a couple weeks ago. I just wanted to pass out one of these. Thank you. You've been hearing about the machines themselves, but I'm just going to go off on a different tangent. I noticed at the last meeting, after it was all over with, and after that happened, I saw some figures because I heard money, money figures being thrown around, like the Excel cost this much and the clear ballot system costs this much. And I got a copy of it, and a lot of the figures in the clear ballot, I'm looking at the 10-year legacy cost side, looked way off to me, and I just found it weird. So I thought and, try to get down to the bottom of this, what, was it looking weird because I'm not looking at it right, but I tried to do some homework. We talked about that last time. And I came up with actually very different numbers. I just wanted to go over a few of them. I'll just start at the top. The paper ballot paper cost that they list, I came up, they have $1,130,000 for paper ballots for 10 years. I came up something with closer to 430 million, not 430 million, 430,000. I'd like to do a little more research on that, but that was my first pass through looking, researching that. So that looked weird.
If I may, I don't want to interrupt you. I paused your time.
Yes.
I guess you have two sides of the sheet,
Yes.
and you're saying your paper cost was 1.1 billion, but you're saying you have a number of 430,000.
I figured it would cost more, closer to 430,000.
So are you going to use some numbers that aren't on here? So we should know to take notes then, because
you could,
that
or
430 wasn't anywhere that I could see.
I know. I just wanted to let you see what was given to us last time.
Fine.
And I'm trying to correct them, but I want to.
Well,
I'm giving you ballparks. I can work on it a little more and get more exact
That's fine.
numbers. And
I
get
mean,
them to
now
you.
I understand.
Yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry.
No problem.
Now the warranty and maintenance, that came out. I got the same number on that one. Also, the additional scanners. It looks like the report people wrote $627,000 for additional scanners. But when I looked at what the possible contract with Clear Ballot was, they already included 17 extra scanners for the county. So we don't need any more extra scanners. We've got plenty. And also they also gave that a number of extra BMDs also, the ballot marking devices. So I marked that down to 0. Privacy screens and booths, I knew that one was off when I looked at it right away, because I know the average cost for like your regular stand-up with the metal legs kind of voting booth that people could go see are about $140 each. So let me see what I did. I think I multiplied an average of 4 for 153 precincts. Now some precincts are real small. I noticed I was sort of skimming how big your precincts were. Some are really small, some are big, but an average of 4 per. I came up with a cost of about close to $90,000, a little under $90,000. That's a big difference from $600,000. Now Montgomery County has a different setup. They've got cardboard ones. They've got some cardboard that you set up on the table, and they've got some that are stand-up ones. And that, when I figured that, if we just did what Montgomery County did and get about 5 per precinct, if we put all stand-up ones, that was more like $21,000. So that's a big difference. Pens, really, pens. Now, we can get them off of Amazon, Sharpies, or Print-Elect is a election supply house. They have special pens for ballot marking, or you can use, like I said, Sharpies, and they can be, I don't know, 75 cents each. So you could get a year's supply for under $600 for the whole county.
Excuse me, you have a minute left.
Okay.
And you have a lot of information that you're adding on to what's here. And I said this last time, if you could you do this then and summarize all your information
Yes.
and forward it to the clerk of council, and she'll be sure we all get it?
I could.
Because I don't think you'll have enough time to do it here tonight.
Right, okay. And then I just
Thank
wanted
you.
to mention the printer ink. I came up with that we can just buy off the shelf. Just printer, it's a toner, really. It's not even ink, so it's not going to dry out. It'll last a long time. I spoke to the vendor about it, and they said, it could last several years. I said for about $50,000 for 10 years. That's what that would come to. So the bottom line is I came up with about $2 million less than what this report had for the Clear Ballot side. And then that didn't even count the, I believe Deb Hunter mentioned last week, or 2 weeks ago, that there was a discount that Clear Ballot offered that wasn't listed on this too, and that was $455,000. So my bottom line is I came out with roughly $2,000,000 $600,000 for clear ballot, and ES&S's side was $3,375,000. So, there you go. That was about right.
All right. So yeah, I would recommend, because we do check everything we get.
Yes.
If you would put whatever it is you want to put in, summarizing with this and what you're saying, and also possibly where your
Yes.
your references.
I can do
that. To get this information and forward it to her, we will have it before the next meeting where there
That
might
would
be a
fine.
possible
I
vote.
can certainly do that. I just wanted to give the ballparks, but
That's fine.
I want to double check everything.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Now, is there anyone else? Is there anyone else who would like to address council on any issue? Courtesy of the floor, seeing none, we're going to move on. And thank you to all who showed up. I can assure you, regardless of what we do take the whole entire voting matter very, very seriously. County Executive Report. Mr. McClure, do you have a report?
I have a good, bad, and partially sad report tonight. As you know, having served on this august body for nearly a decade, I have a great reverence for County Council. I have a great deal of respect for the people who do the work you do because I've done it. And it's my sad duty to report a member of our very first County Council under Home Rule died. And that's Mr. Rodney Applegate. And Mr. Applegate was a mentor to me. He was a mentor to Mr. Dertinger. Mr. Dertinger is with Mr. Applegate and his family tonight as they perform the Masonic ritual at the viewing in the evening, and that's where he is tonight, and appropriately so. He was very important in Mr. Dertinger's life, and he was very important in Ms. Smith's life. So we have heavy hearts in our administration this week. And if you just indulge me, I've been granted the opportunity through holding this office to get out into the public, to be with groups who are honoring volunteers through across the spectrum of volunteerism and private charity, if you will. And what I have found, I knew this, but now I know it in my bones. As you know, I think government is the answer to many of our problems, but ultimately is not the answer to all of our problems. And the true answer there is an active citizenry engaged in helping other folks. And Mr. Applegate was that. And if you just indulge me for a moment and let me talk about it. Mr. Applegate was 75. He was a 1961 graduate of Nazareth High School. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Education from the now known East Stroudsburg University in 1965, and later received a master's equivalent. At ESU, he was a charter member and secretary of Tau Kappa Epsilon Social Fraternity, president of the Democratic Club, and played in a band. He was a special education teacher. Mr. Applegate taught a combined 40½ years at the campus school of the former Allentown State Hospital and George Wolfe Elementary School, Bath. While teaching and retired from Bath, he was an active member of the NEA, PSEA, and NAEA. In addition to teaching, Rodney and his wife Eileen were co-former owners of All Decked Out, Inc. A lifelong member of St. John's Evangelical Lutheran Church, he was a member and secretary of the church council, co-superintendent of the high school and postgraduate Sunday school department, founder of the Community Awareness Drug Program, and coordinator of the Community Vacation Bible School. Rodney was also a member of the Christ Church of Bath UCC. Rodney visited and conducted communion for the shut-ins, hospital, and nursing home members. His community service in Nazareth included chairman of the Nazareth Area Heart Fund, secretary of the JCs, director of the Kiwanis Club, director of the Jacksonian Club, director and secretary treasurer of the Greenwood Street St. John Cemetery, and the Republican members of council will indulge me. An active Democrat, Rodney served as a committee man, area chairman, executive board member, and treasurer. Mr. Dertinger's presenting Mrs. Applegate with that proclamation tonight. So thank you very much for that. So now for some good news. You were sued in court over your responsible contractor ordinance. You have won that case. And let me just read.
Congratulations.
Let me just read you the last 2 paragraphs of that case, because I think the judge nicely sums that up. That said, the plaintiffs are not remediless. It is too soon to tell how effectively the RCOs will achieve their intended purpose of identifying responsible contractors for public jobs. And Mr. Basu certainly provides a parade of horribles as to their possible results. But regardless, that is not for the court to answer. The calculus of effects, the manner in which a particular law reverberates in a society, is a legislative and not a judicial responsibility. If the plaintiffs are in fact correct, and the RCOs ultimately do not serve public welfare as effectively as an alternative policy would, their solution is at the ballot box, not the courthouse. So congratulations, you won that case. Some other good news. I read in the Morning Call that the RNs were dancing after they ratified their contract at Graysdale. We are, of course, very pleased that they are pleased with the results of the hard negotiations that we're engaged in, and we're looking forward to working with them to improve the situation that we inherited in January of this year and going forward. And I'm so pleased that they're getting in the health care. I'm so pleased that they're getting a raise. And although we couldn't do all for them that they would have liked, we did what we could. Bad news. The firm GPI is the engineer who represents Krieger in the P3 building project. This letter was written to the third-party engineer who represents the GPA. It was dated April 26, 2019. Greg, I spoke to Jim after today's meeting regarding some of the items that came up during our conference call. It's the intent that the majority of the outstanding concerns will be resolved with a contract amendment. Until an agreement on a contract amendment is reached, no new project sites other than Bridge 143, Bridge 63, and Bridge 184 will be scheduled. Regarding the TCE reimbursement, it is at TCE, we're to be reimbursed for the temporary easements that we paid for. Regarding the TCE reimbursement, it is at the advice of Krieger's counsel that they not make any payments until an agreement on a contract amendment is reached. That's the rest of it is sort of details. So I wish I had better news about that. I'm committed, as always, to keeping this project moving forward. There is as you know, a milestone payment due at the end of May. I'm not sure how the GPA is going to react at their next meeting when they're told that no other work is being done at this time. I'm not certain what they'll do. So that's that. Any questions about that?
Just a real quick, is there any talks on what the contract negotiation or amendment would look like as of yet or anything?
So we talked about the 7 bridges, and we think that number is somewhere around 4.6 million. They think that number is somewhere around 2.6 million. We can't take 7 bridges out of the contract.
So you're off.
And yeah, I don't think it's at this time, I'll characterize the state of the negotiations as impasse. And I cannot foresee what would break that logjam. We're going to keep trying to move this thing forward, but
at this point, if they're withholding payments for those easements and they're also not moving forward with any construction, why can we not withhold our milestone payment?
Well,
if we are at an impasse, or is that only for the GPA to decide?
If by we you mean us, the
like
county
the county
government,
yeah.
We can't do anything. The contract other than pay. Yeah, only the GPA can decide whether to pay or not.
Okay, so
or if we didn't, the consequence is we'd be sued.
Well, yes, we would have. What would happen is, I think we would cause the GPA to breach if we took the initiative not to pay.
And what would be the implications of that?
We'd get sued.
And you would think that we would lose?
I don't know. I'm not going to characterize. There's so much that's gone on, and the contract, I think, is one that was drafted entirely for the benefit of the contractor.
Contractor, yeah.
So it's.
Well, it seems that the contractor is breaching the contract, but
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
But it's not in. Yeah, but is it just not in the verbiage of the contract that would be defined as a breach?
My understanding of the contract, and we've pulled it apart, is that while we're required to make milestone payments, the milestone is never defined.
The nature of the contract is such that they're supposed to do construction and they get paid.
Right.
Why, if they're doing no construction, would we ever pay?
Well, wouldn't one point be, the contract's with the GPA, I think we'd have to address these concerns to the GPA. We're sort of, I don't even know how to categorize, we as the county government writing the
We're
check.
like ancillary.
We're not really, it's the GPA and Krieger that would, am I mistaken on that?
Yeah, but Councilman,
I mean, they're not going to do it, but.
As you know from your efforts on oversight last year,
Yes.
they'll be. I imagine the General Purpose Authority is going to be responsive to, because I have the same general sense that Councilwoman has.
But Krieger's
it sounds
holding
to
a
me like an
contract that's-
anticipatory breach, but
Well, but again, you brought out yourself, Krieger, this is a very Krieger-friendly contract.
it is incredibly.
And so, I mean, I guess
developer-friendly.
we'll see where it all goes, but I don't hold out a lot of hope, but I'd like to hold out more hope.
It is thus far the darkest hour that we've had on the project, and I thought that you needed to know that.
Thank you.
We got some communication. I'm trying to think if speaking of my reverence for this august body, it was brought to my attention that I had inadvertently signed the lease that's before you tonight on your agenda, before you had an opportunity to consider and pass it. I apologize. I am probably too familiar with the charter and code and know that the people we contract with know that it's not a thing until county council passes it. So that's an error of mine, Mr. President.
Forgiveness is always better than permission.
Mea
so-
culpa, mea culpa, mea maxima culpa. We, with respect to the voting machines, and I don't intend to get too far into the weeds on this, but we received a communication from the Warren County Board of Elections, and this was to the voter registration office, and they indicated that we did the Express Vote XL machines, and we will be using them this coming primary in June. We also used them in a school election in January. They are a lot better than what we had. So for what it's worth, that's the feeling in Warren County, New Jersey today. I understand that Philadelphia is going to use these machines in their primary.
What did they have before?
I don't know.
Shows on this map they're using.
No, in Warren County.
I don't
in
know
New
what
Jersey.
Warren-
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, so what is,
That's their view.
it just doesn't offer a comparison then, if you just say they were better than the ones that they had
Well,
before.
he's saying that. I'm not saying that.
But you know what I mean.
Right.
There's
But
nothing
he-
to compare it to.
but he
I don't know
said-
what they
but
had.
But they're saying that,
I gotcha.
right?
Um,
So
He said, she said.
go ahead. You
No,
have-
you
What?
still have the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Philadelphia is using these in their primary in June. A large Democratic county. And, as a partisan Democrat, I like winning statewide elections as much as the next guy, and we really can't win statewide elections unless we're doing very well in Philadelphia. So I'm not terribly concerned about the partisan aspects of the machine. When Mr. Bruno was speaking, and please understand that I have a great deal of sympathy from which the concerns about the security of the machines comes from. I get it. I was there myself, okay, and it took me a while to work through it. But I agree wholeheartedly, and I love to see the participatory nature of people who have differing opinions about these machines. This is a wonderful exercise in our in the participatory nature of this part of our democracy. It's great, and I'm glad all the folks are here. I really don't like having our motivations characterized, though. And I'll specifically say the implication of there being kickbacks or inappropriate bribes or anything that this company may have been accused in any other jurisdiction. We didn't even take a cup of coffee from them, okay? Not a cup of coffee. So you can disagree with our motive, you can disagree with what we're doing, but it's really inappropriate to challenge our motivations and attempt to include us in any problems, ethical problems they may have had in any other jurisdiction. Also, he said anyone with a modicum of integrity, and again, in a debate, you know, I was taught long ago you're really not supposed to question a person's motivations. You know, question their thought process. Maybe this machine's better than another machine, but I have a modicum of integrity, and so do all the people who worked on this. But let us suppose that people in this debate don't think I do. That's fine. The Secretary of State, appointed by Governor Wolf, a Democrat, Catherine Bookvar, has, I think, a modicum of integrity, and she is going to Philadelphia with the state's IT folks to explain how they certified this particular machine and to attempt to answer some of the questions that have arisen over ballot security. So we've been in contact with Secretary Bookvar, and we're hoping she comes here to Northampton County with the state's IT experts to also talk with us about the Express XL security. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Now, if there are any I have a question for you on this, Executive. We did get a courtesy of the floor from Charles an email. I don't know if that's for public consumption or not, but about the last time when people came. We've gotten a whole lot of information thrown at us, as you just pointed out. And I do agree with you 100%. I don't think that representing anybody up here, I mean, there's something online that it says I didn't even get a lousy T-shirt. I got nothing from this company, nor do I anticipate getting anything, nor do I want anything. And like I said, as you know, last year I was out at Gettysburg with some of my fellow council members looking at all these machines. I don't question or impugn the intentions of you, your administration, or anybody up here. I think we're all taking voting seriously, whether we agree with one group or the other. But I would say that one key would be to look in the Home Rule Charter and read Section 1007 regarding the Election Commission, and the intent to get that piece, a very important part of our process, out of the hands of people who could benefit from it. And I think that that's important, that people would check the Election Commission as far as part of a Home Rule Charter, what's written. Do you, and I see we have Ms. Cozy here, is there any, I know we're going to, in 2 weeks, this is going to be a long, involved process, I have a feeling. Did you want to have her say anything tonight? Or
yeah, sure, if she feels like there's
I don't know if council has any questions based on what we heard tonight.
I want to sort of,
I know it's not on the agenda,
reflect upon a point you just made with respect to the charter. So there are 4 distinct commissions and boards that the framers of our charter specifically carved out to deprive council, and council, not the executive. They weren't considering the executive. They deprive council of the ability to engage in those particular activities. And frankly, one of them was the Elections Commission. And the actual language of it is pretty clear. And
well, I know you as an attorney and history buff, you know that the old Andrew Jackson, when the Supreme Court ruled against him, said, well, you have your decision, now enforce it, which wasn't one of his finer moments. Sir, I'm just concerned because we did get a decision from the Election Commission. It wasn't overwhelming, but just like with us, 5-4 vote, they gave a vote. And they are created, part of their purpose is this. Now, I know we hold the purse strings, but It's giving me a great deal of concern as I ponder through. And I am researching beyond what I've already done, and I've been checking, especially regarding fraud, and I've been going online, and Mr. McGee knows I like to do my Columbo research. And so I'll have that by the next meeting. But I know this is creating some concern on the part of council members and certainly the public, and I agree with you. I have no problem with it.
Like many things in our charter regime,
Yeah,
we have de jure power and de facto power.
yeah.
And it is often very much blended. Nowhere more so than in these 4 independent boards and commissions that the charter creates.
Yeah.
And I think we agree to specifically exclude council from these decisions that these particular boards make. The fact of the matter is, the blended nature of our functions could get sorted out in litigation in a way that would more closely prescribe and proscribe how we manage the Elections Commission, our voter registration office, and as a matter of fact, these issues are being litigated in Allegheny County right now. And how they're resolved in Allegheny County is not necessarily binding on us, but it might eventually make its way into the appellate courts, and then, of course, any law made there would be binding on us, potentially. So, and most likely. So we go down a dangerous path when we essentially reverse the decision of the Election Commission. But we've been there before. I mean,
Not saying it's unheard of,
Right.
but it's a concern, and it is a concern for me. As you said, the framers thought of 4 distinct entities that they wanted to. Now they can give them power of purse, which of course then creates some of the problems.
Right.
But there was a reason, and I think we do have to look at that reason as we ponder this. Now you're here. You graciously said you had a question you wanted to ask
I
him?
kind of did, but
Or Ms. Cozy, she's here too. It's not on the agenda, but I know it's important.
yeah, I just
don't
want to
wanna
make 2 points.
Push it away.
One point is that I do believe that an ad hominem argument is the weakest of all arguments, and I don't think anybody's personally attacking either you or the administration. Obviously, I believe that you have integrity, and I don't think that anybody should imply that you or your administration accepted a kickback for this machine or anything, or that the election board did. I think that part of the error is that the election board voted right after seeing 2 machines and did not get to see the third, which is bothersome to me. That's bothersome to me. The other thing that's bothersome to me is that it sounds like if we are not complicit with the election board's decision, that we're going to be engaged in a lawsuit. So I'm wondering, what is the specific purpose of our vote then to do anything more than just rubber stamp the Election Commission's decision and to allocate the money towards it for a machine that we may or may not believe in? I think at this point in time, there's been so much question about this machine that it undermines voters' trust of the election, or could undermine a certain group of people's trust that the elections, that the vote that they cast is the vote that they cast. I think that the paper ballot in some way satisfies that group of electors to trust the election. And so it has nothing to do with the trust that I feel for you or Amy or your administration. And I'm still doing due diligence. I'm still trying to find out, and I would welcome the solicitor to step in and talk about the copy that you had about the powers and duties of county boards, either at this time or in the future.
I will disclose that this evening, if I may. I was tasked, we had a conversation last week, and I sent you an email in that regard, and I received a task from the chairman tonight, and I expect to respond to that rather promptly. But I would echo our executive's comment that government by litigation is not a good idea.
No, no one wants that.
In fact, it's a very bad idea.
Matt, go ahead, just ask your questions.
Yeah, and so this, actually, the discussion about deliberately separating those departments from council, did we actually circumvent that by, they didn't actually do all the research on the voting machines. It was done in the administration and given to them. You know what I mean? So they weren't given necessarily a full choice. They didn't do, you know, I don't want to say delegate of duty, but they were elected to that position to serve on that board. Did they not completely go through? They should have done what Amy Cozy did, I guess is what I'm saying, to fulfill the separation of that duty. We basically presented them, or the administration presented them with some choices.
Let's assume for argument's sake that that is in fact true. There's nothing to be done about that. Just as, in my opinion, Judge might disagree with me. Just that Judge Smith said that that's a legislative function that they engaged in. It's not to be questioned.
I guess along with what you're saying, Matt, is, yeah, I mean, I don't want to dump on the Election Commission, but I think if they felt that they weren't seeing enough things, I mean, with the passion we're getting, the Election Commission, that's where this should have been figured
Right.
out. So, I mean,
agree.
and we could say, well, they didn't figure it out right, they made the wrong choice, but they made a choice, and that's what I'm wrestling
But
with.
we do have to pay for it.
Well, yes, we do.
Whatever choice
Either
they
way,
made.
we're going to pay.
So
I would like to see
Well,
the
what's-
other three members here. We did see Kathy Fox and we saw Deb Hunter. I would like to hear from the other three members. Why are there not people here, I mean, besides the administration, like from the Election Commission who said, these are great machines, we need to use them, but the only people that are here, I mean, are people who are saying, you know, this is a cybersecurity issue, this is an election trust issue, blah, 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 blah. That's just my concern.
Right. So the three members who voted for the Express XL, is my understanding that they saw the other ESNS machine at the Lehigh County Expo.
They certainly can have to extend an invitation.
Let's extend an invitation.
I mean, whether they.
I mean, we got all these people here. Why not some more, right? It's like a big
Well,
voting
we can
party.
certainly ask, and it's up to, if they show, they show.
If they show, they show.
But,
Yes,
mean,
I got you.
certainly ask.
Very good.
Are there any other questions for the county executive, or I'm throwing in this because I don't mean to put you in a bullseye, but particularly regarding this.
I guess I would just like to ask those other three members of the Election Commission, when they did observe Lehigh counties, why did they not like that one, or why did they like the one they picked better than the one they saw in Lehigh County? I'd just like to know.
Right, but it would be nice to hear from them.
If they're here next time, that would be a good question.
I would like to throw a little sugar on this. Thank you so much for your negotiations with the nurses. You did a brilliant job.
Thank you. Anything else?
I don't have anything.
Thank
else.
you,
Anything
sir.
else? Thank you. All right. Old business. We're going to have a public hearing. The first is the public hearing on the ordinance creating an open space, parks, and recreation advisory board. This ordinance was introduced by Ms. Zirinsky and Mr. Lott at the April 18th meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public regarding this ordinance? Public hearing. Seeing none. Discussion by council.
I see.
Just a question, Mr. President. I guess the issue that I raised last time was whether this is an elimination and a reestablishment, or are we just renaming? I think there was some question. And if we are creating a new board, do we have to rename the people that are there? Has research been done into that, and is there a clarification to that question that was
We
raised?
had asked, yeah, we had asked Brian Cope this specific question, and he said no.
Well, with all due respect to Brian.
I know, where is he?
I mean,
Okay, yeah, I got you.
I understand what Mr. Cusick's asking. I mean, it's,
I do.
are we,
They do not-
if we are abolishing the board, we're abolishing the board members. And if we create a new board, I don't know if you automatically get on the new board without being appointed. So am I mistaken?
Correct. I mean, my cursory reading of this, I didn't go to law school, but it appears that we're just renaming the existing board. But I just wanted to get a clarification that we are not, in fact, abolishing and creating a new one.
No, that's
That
what
is
Brian
that
Cook
is a
said.
distinction.
Down at the bottom of the first page, whereas the Open Space Advisory Board will be renamed the
All right.
Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Board. So we're just renaming it. It's just segue into a new name. It's kind of like what we did with the Energy, Environment, and Land Use. We didn't have to reappoint the members to that committee. We just renamed it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's because we're
Well-
doing an ordinance, and that's like
Okay,
the
I
law.
hear what
But
you're
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I don't think it's we have to or not have to. I'm fine with the ordinance.
I think all
we're
those
just trying to
people
answer
are
his
show up
question.
anyway.
What's that? All right.
I love that committee.
Are there any other questions or discussion on this? And by the way, there are 3 people who went to law school sitting right in front of you.
Any one of them can chime in then.
No, they don't need to chime in. Any other discussion by council? All right, seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Aye. Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. Is there any other old business to discuss? Old, seasoned. Seeing none? New business. We have the introduction of an ordinance entitled, An Ordinance of the Northampton County Council authorizing the County of Northampton, Easton, Pennsylvania, to lease approximately 2,990 square feet of office space identified as 301 Broadway, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, from Sycamore Hill Farm Development, LP, for District Court 3210. Was there someone who would sponsor this ordinance?
I will.
I'll second it.
Ms. Hefner sponsors, Ms. Zirinsky seconds. And there will be a public hearing, a date, and possible vote at the May 16th meeting. Next on the agenda, we have the consideration of a resolution amending the Northampton County Conservation District, expedited technical review policy. Ms. Zirinsky, would you introduce this resolution?
It is hereby resolved by the Northampton County Council that the Northampton County Conservation District expedited technical review policy shall be amended as indicated on the attached document. Sections marked with strikeout have been deleted.
Thank you.
Sharon is actually here.
The discussion. Do you have
Sharon
someone?
Hutchin from the
Well,
Conservation District is here. If
I don't know. Are there any
anybody
questions? Why don't you come up to the podium and introduce yourself? We'll go from there.
Why are we doing this? Yeah, she can.
Sharon Hutchin, Conservation District Manager.
Yeah. Mr. Dertinger has that responsibility under his job description, but he's not here.
May I ask a
Yeah, go ahead,
very
John.
simple question? Why are we doing this?
So this policy has gone before council due to the fact that it is directly related to our fee schedule. So our fee schedule needs to go before council. And there is no change to the fee. The fee is the same, but this policy has been in place at this point as revised previously for about a year, and we're finding some issues that need to be clarified and some complications that occurred with previous submittals, so we're trying to correct those and make it a smoother policy for future applicants.
Could you just quickly take us through the changes and what
Sure.
what the reasoning
Well,
behind it was?
Yes, so there is some strikeouts, but there
Yeah.
was also some red additions, which I think in your black and white copies don't appear. So roughly, just to summarize, aside from the corrections for clarity, one of the main changes is the time period that the policy will be in place. Other districts suspend the policy for a small amount of time due to staff availability, especially around the holidays. So in the first paragraph, the policy will be in place from January 1st to October 31st for that reason. Another change would be under item number 1. To simplify this, we had the 2 types of permits kind of pulled out where we would accept 3 of one of another. It got complicated, and hard for me to track over the course of the year. So we just said a flat 4 applications at one time. So that simplifies it for us, and it also simplifies it to make it clearer for the regulated community. We added actually took a lot out of number 4 to also make that very clear. Once projects exceed 50 acres, they become a lot more complex. It's hard for the staff to work on overtime singly. We have to assign multiple staff members, and it becomes a scheduling conflict for them to be able to do that. So the larger projects, we are unable to work towards the policy. The previous policy allowed us to have some negotiation, which ended up being conflicting for myself as well as our board. Number 5, we have some changes there where we added if there was a penalty assessed on a permittee in the past 5 years, that they would also not be eligible for the policy. Allowing this policy to be used by those that follow the rules. We also clarified some required meetings at different times to make sure that the staff is fully aware of what's being submitted. It's worked out really well for this policy. One of the main changes that we made last time was we are requiring a meeting ahead of time to go through the application, make sure that we have the most complete application. One of the main changes was that it has to be a complete application when it comes in the first time around. So we have a good quality product, and things actually do happen in an expedited manner. So that's been working out really well. Item 9 on the second page, we also revised, making that more simplified, actually reducing the time frames for the review for the individual permit down to 20 as opposed to 25. We thought that the district engineer was going to suffer with having a little bit more time for that, the more complicated permit, since we have to deal with DEP, but we've been able to work through that. And then item 10 is also a change to simplify the policy. We had the requirement for resubmission to be a minimum. It was a minimum of 3 working days, but it was twice the amount of days that it takes for them to resubmit. Again, a lot of work needed to be done to try to figure that out. There was a lot of conflicts. They thought one date, I had another. So to make that simplified, we had the same time frame as what's established in item 9. So that actually ends up also reducing that and making this a true expedited policy regardless on our end. And then lastly, item 12, it makes it a little bit more clear to the applicants that the policy is allowable for once they've already submitted the application. We do have that ability, but we need to make sure that all aspects of the policy, including the meeting and us walking through the application with them, that occurs to make sure that we have everything under the policy. Right. So, are there any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Any other questions?
I remember when we started this expedited policy. So how many years ago was that? How long have you been working with it now? Do you remember? I mean, not
it was adopted in 2013 originally.
So this is, as you're working with it, you're just tweaking it to make it more efficient.
Well, we had to tweak it last year because we had the new delegation, and so we could open it up to all of our permits since we're handling them all in-house. So at this point, we're still trying to figure out how this new delegation is working, looking at the workload that the district engineer is taking on. All of this is still done on overtime for both the regular 102 staff as well as the district engineer, and he's one person. So it is getting a little bit daunting for
You really
him.
do a good job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Flores, that's it for you? That's it?
That's it.
We're always keeping it.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
No, we're good. Thank you.
No other discussion?
Work.
Call for the vote.
Mr. Renzi?
Yes.
Mr. Heckman?
Yes.
Mr. Lot?
Yes.
Mr. McGee?
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner?
Yes.
Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic?
Yes.
Mr. Dees?
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro?
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
They're going to separate.
Yeah, you worry about Ron.
All right, next on the agenda is consideration of collective bargaining unit agreement between the United Steelworkers of America, Graysdale Professional Bargaining Unit, and the County of Northampton Resolution. Mr. Warner, would you please introduce this?
Now therefore, it is hereby resolved by the Northampton County Council that the collective bargaining unit agreement between the United Steelworkers of America, Graysdale Professional Bargaining Unit, and the County of Northampton shall be approved this second day of May, 2019.
Great.
Any discussion? Mr. Workman, please.
Just real quickly, I want to thank the administration for the work that they've done. The registered nurses are absolutely critical to everything that goes on at Graysdale. And I think some of the comparisons that have been made here are somewhat inaccurate because the nurses can get other jobs in a way that some of our other professionals cannot. So we do compete, and we have to compete on a salary basis for registered nurses. And I think that this agreement is a good step in that direction. So I look forward to voting for it.
Any further discussion, questions? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Dees.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
And Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have the consideration of a resolution establishing a property-assessed clean energy program. Mr. McGee, would you please introduce this resolution?
Sure. Now therefore be it resolved by Northampton County Council that, number one, all whereas clauses are incorporated into this resolution by reference. 2, a property-assessed clean energy program shall be established in the county and shall be known as Northampton County CPACE program. Number 3, the Northampton County Council designates the entire county as the district as defined in Section 4302 of Title 12 of the Pennsylvania Consolidated Statutes. Thank you. 12 PS. Number 4, the Sustainable Energy Fund shall be authorized to administer Northampton County CPACE program in accordance with the cooperation agreement. Number 5, the county and the Sustainable Energy Fund shall negotiate the terms of this cooperation agreement. Number 6, Northampton County Council authorizes the Northampton County Executive to execute the cooperation agreement. Number 7, Northampton County Council authorizes Northampton County Executive or designee to execute any and all other necessary documents as may be required to facilitate the successful implementation of the Northampton County CPACE program. Number 8, any reference in this resolution to any officer of the county or any officer or member of Northampton County Council shall be deemed to refer to his or her duly qualified successor in office, if applicable. Number 9, the county approves, ratifies, and confirms all actions heretofore taken by its officers, its designated representative or representatives, and other persons on its behalf in connection with the undertakings herein contemplated to the extent not inconsistent with this resolution. Number 10, in the event any provision, section, sentence, clause, or part of this resolution shall be held to be invalid, such invalidity shall not affect or impair any remaining provisions, sections, sentence, clause, or part of this resolution. In being it the intent of the Northampton County Council that such remainder shall be and shall remain in full force and effect. Number 11, all prior resolutions or parts of prior resolutions that are inconsistent with this resolution are hereby repealed. And number 12, the resolution shall become effective immediately upon it having been recorded in the minutes of the Northampton County Council, and the Northampton County Council hereby directs that this resolution be recorded immediately following its adoption. So moved out of committee today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. McGee. Discussion. Any discussion, any questions? anything else to be said? Nothing else to be said?
No, I think we discussed this all.
Yeah, we discussed it at the committee pretty extensively, and they were in once before in front of full council.
Very good. Let's call for the vote.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Mr. Dietz.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lot.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 9-0.
Thank you. All right, now we have consideration of Article 13, contract resolution, Skanska USA Building. Am I pronouncing that correct? Mr. Werner, would you please introduce this resolution?
Now
Talk
there-
about it?
You ready?
Yeah.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Northampton County Council does hereby concur with the recommendation of the county executive as set forth in the attached documentation to approve a contract with Skanska USA Building for construction management services for the Regional Forensic Center. Did I get that right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Discussion. Questions? Mr. Kusick first.
Normally, we put this through the committee process. I realize time may be an issue here. Is there anyone here from Skanska to discuss this?
Apparently not.
This is
Wow.
Did we not already discuss this?
Well, we discussed it, but not in context with the contractor. Mr. Mealy, could you
But
come
the
up? You probably
contractors
can.
were here, were they not? They brought blueprints and things like that.
No, that was the architect.
No, that's the
Oh, the
architect.
engineers, okay.
And I know I spoke to Mr. Dertinger on the phone, and you know, I knew that he spoke to me, but we did talk about this in the sense of this coming onto the agenda to get rolling before a committee. And I said, well, it'll probably be discussed if we don't, but, so whether it's discussed at the committee or discussed here, it's open to discussion before it's voted on. But any questions, he did say we could ask Mr. Amelie, and so there you go.
You know, normally when we approve these Article 13 contracts, the contractor shows up. And these folks are from Bluebell, so it's not like they couldn't have just gotten on the turnpike and been here. You know, we didn't get this as part of our packets on Monday. It came, I believe, yesterday. So, I read through the proposal. I think it's sound, but I'm just a little concerned at the timing. And I would feel better if we could actually see the folks that we're going to award a $329,000 contract to for construction management. You know, Mr. McClure recalls very well what we went through with a previous one when we did the updates to the courthouse here. So I'm not going to be maybe I will in the future, but without the contractor actually being here for me to talk to and to, present themselves to the public, I'm having a hard time supporting this tonight. If they show up at the committee meeting, we can, meet them and they can talk about what they're going to do. I'll probably vote for it, but not now. I'm not ready, especially since they're not here.
Bob, go ahead.
I only have two quick questions. One is, was this reviewed at the Finance Committee? I don't believe it was.
No. Well, I mean, it was. I was asked if it could be put on the agenda. I said it could be put on the agenda, but I don't know if there's a time frame thing or not. But I said it's not like it's not going to get discussed because it wasn't at a committee.
No, that was my first question, and you answered it. Thank you for that. Secondly, to Mike, Mr. Amelie, excuse me. What exactly is the $329,788 specifically for?
Sure. So the services that Skanska would be providing, it would start with basically taking the final or the 99% complete or the roughly complete plans that we would be getting from the architect and the engineer, and performing a constructability review on that. If there's anything that jumps out at them as that might be a concern during construction, they identify it early in the process where it is a very small change to make, as opposed to during construction when the cost of that change increases exponentially. So that's part of their services. During construction, they will have a representative on site every single day that the contractor is out there, and they'll be serving as the eyes and the ears of the county on the project. They'll be interfacing with the contractors, inspecting the progress, reporting daily to the county on what's being made out there. Any sort of change orders and requests for information that are submitted will be reviewed by the construction manager. They will obviously be making their recommendations to the county on how to proceed with that. They will be with us from the first day of construction through to project closeout, including getting all the specialized furnitures, fixtures, and equipment that are required for a forensic center. So these would all be services that are included in their scope of work.
Okay, may I do a little follow-up
You-
on that,
you-
Mr. Chairman?
You have the floor.
Okay, so we voted to give how much money for this forensic center? 15 million, 5 million, 14 million, what was the total? 11, thank you.
The money.
In that 11 million, did that not include reviewing the land and the construction areas and sites?
Well, that 11 million included the anticipated construction management fees.
Well, isn't that what this says, construction management fees? That's what it says on there. And I'm not, that's just my understanding of it. It sounds like to me it's it's an add-on charge.
It's not over and above that 11 million. It's included in what we had initially anticipated, that 11 million.
So this is in the, okay, help me out. This is in the $11 million?
Yes.
So they're just asking it.
So you're asking to release this money for this project?
Correct.
Okay, and it didn't come in front of the Finance Committee?
If I can just speak in terms of the time is of the essence nature of this, as I had alluded to, one of the first step for the construction manager once they're brought on board is to perform their constructability review.
Okay.
As we have outlined, this is a time-sensitive project for the county, given the current farmhouse that Mr. Lysick is operating out of in Louisemore Park. It's not in the greatest condition, and we can't really afford to take any chances with that structure. So we do have an aggressive schedule with this project, but one that we feel is doable, and we are expecting to get this out to bid within about a month or so. So if we did let this process linger on, it would impact the schedule, and it would also cut into the amount of time that the construction manager would have to start reviewing those plans and diminish the value that we would be seeing on that contract.
Okay. Mr. Lott.
Yes, Mr. Kusick, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. It would be nice if we could hear the contractor. And I say that because I do know this contractor, and they are extremely, I'm so thrilled to get this contractor, because go on their website, look at the quality of projects they do. I'm kind of surprised they went after a project this small and at this scope. A project that they did recently was the PP&L data center. Data centers, this was a very fast-paced job, because after everybody wants to get their data away from everything else in a highly secured facility. They did this project on time and below budget, and it was a very technical job that they did. So I would urge everybody to take a look at this company. I think we got a real winner here, and I'm kind of surprised they came in as they did come in, as the lowest responsible general construction manager.
So
Thank you.
Are you finished, Ms. Lott? Ms. Zirinsky.
So that was my question. Are they the lowest responsible bid? You've had 42 firms assess the RFP, 7 firms submitted proposal, 2 firms submitted no bid response. So this was the lowest responsible bidder, or this was just the best?
We did receive one bid that I would consider suspiciously low compared to the other ones that we received. We did not consider that a responsible bid. We had narrowed those 7 bids down to 3 firms that we had brought in for a follow-up interview, along with a selection committee consisting of Mr. Derdinger, Mr. Barron, Catherine Anderson from procurement, as well as myself. And based on that, we had kind of narrowed the selection down, and we felt that the cost between those 3 firms that we had brought in were honestly negligible on a project of this size. And we felt that Skanska offered the best value. And just anecdotally, one of the reasons why we felt comfortable with them, Mr. Dertinger, in his past life as an working for an electrical contractor on major projects in New York City, had been on the other side of the coin, where he was a contractor working on a project where Skanska was representing the owner. And needless to say, they made life a bit of a chore for him, and he felt that experience will certainly be in the county's best interest as the owner on that project. And that small difference that they may have been above any other bidders we were considering, we feel we will recoup that money throughout the course of the project.
So they're going to be on this project end to end, basically, and they are the best bidder, so to speak, that you put forward, and I trust that, and I trust what Kevin said, and I'm going to support it.
Well,
Just one last
yeah,
comment.
go ahead.
Based on Mr. Lott's glowing report of this, and I trust Kevin, because I know Mr. Lott, I trust him because he's in the business, and if it would reflect in our numbers $10,670,217 showing that money has been removed, because that's where this money came from, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
No.
then I don't have a problem with it, because that was the money that was directed toward, okay?
As long as we're clear on that. Yeah. Okay. And let me just say, and I think one of the tough things is Mr. Amelia touched on it. I had the opportunity to have a long chat with Mr. Dertinger on the phone about this when he was asking. And I did say it was a bit unusual, to be quite honest with you. That I said, I think you're going to get some questions. But, I mean, certainly I'll put it on the agenda if it's a time-sensitive issue. But normally it would go through a committee. If there's one thing that and talking to Mr. Dertinger, one thing we did get with him being the Director of Administration is his experience in doing this. And we had the opportunity to talk about some I would just say, very well-known people that bid on this in the area who came in with pretty high numbers. And it might have been based on what Mr. Lott's saying. To them, this was almost a throwaway project that they'll get to when they get time. And this company, and that's true, he said to me he had issues with this company at one time, but he said because of the amount of the contract, he didn't have issues with them because of the standard of their work, just because they're tough, that he felt they were going to be here from day one through the end. We were not going to have, they didn't have to put a trailer. A couple of the big guys want to bring in, put their trailers, and we get charged for that. They want to put this here, they get charged for that. And we all know some of the projects around the county that have happened. Project managers come in and they love to load it up, front end, back end, and everywhere else. So I felt comfortable, but unfortunately, because of a personal situation, we couldn't predict. If Mr. Dertinger had been here, he probably would have been, not that you didn't do it, but after talking to him, and plus his experience, and he apparently is going to be there. So here you have a guy who's been worked on big New York projects, city projects, and he's going to personally show up. So I have that confidence, but I understand. Normally, the builder isn't here, but based on what you said, Kevin, I mean, I did check after I talked to Charles, and I looked at their thing, and it seemed, well, they're pretty good. But, I mean, that was my understanding. One of the reasons they were picked was it was felt that they were the lowest responsible and that this is a kind of project. They're the group that would give us the best value for dollar.
Yeah,
best bang for our buck. That's the way it was explained to me,
Okay.
Mr. Werner.
What is since this is out in front of us now, how will this change the time frame for the building?
Well,
since it's going to be
If this were to be approved tonight, and our intention is to essentially get all of the contract documents that we have right now from the architect and the engineers in front of Skanska basically on Monday, and they would start digging into it.
Oh, that's exciting.
Go ahead, Mr.
Just one quick comment, and I respect Kevin's opinion. You're in this business, but for me, I think the first part of showing up is coming to this meeting for the approval. And I don't think it was too much of an ask. Whether Mr. Dertinger was here or not, I think that a representative from the company should have been here. I'm sure they'll do a good job. I appreciate Mr. Lott's thoughts. I respect them. but my opposition is strictly to their non-appearance at this meeting. You know.
No, I actually, I agree with you in that, in one sense, Mr. Kuzic. When we give out these contracts, some of them, I'm surprised that some of the folks don't show up. Mr. Dietz.
Just want to say that I agree with Mr. Kuzic, and just a couple other quick questions here. Just basically definition of words. You had said that they would be here from start to finish, and then when you had just said you talked to Mr. Durton, his words were he felt that they would be.
I'm don't go. I mean, I'm paraphrasing what I heard. Mr. Durtinger said a lot to me in a short amount of time, so I don't go by what he says. I mean, I'm just giving you paraphrasing what I heard. So
okay, yeah. So I mean, so that they would be here, and then the other items that you said that they were in the contract of picking out the items for inside the building. Is that all included in this, or are there charges up and above for those items?
Skanska wouldn't be the ones that are actually picking out the equipment. That's more the architect's duty, but Skanska would be helping to actually coordinate the delivery and installation of that, and all that is included in the cost of this proposal.
Okay.
Is there any other questions or discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote.
Mr. Warner.
Yes, I heard you.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic.
No.
Mr. Dietz.
No.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
And Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Adopted by a vote of 7-2.
Thank you. I do agree, though. I would ask that in the future,
I do.
across the board, if we're giving out a contract to somebody,
Get them in.
they should show up, especially if they're local. I have to agree with that part of it. Thank you. And also, you know,
that may, and I will find out. That may be our fault, not theirs.
No, and like I said to Lamar, and I'm because of what happened with the funeral.
I agree with Mr. Kuzic.
Yeah,
They should be here.
They should be here, and I did say to Charles, not
was an
putting it in
oversight
front
on
of the
my part.
committee. I was concerned about that, but you know, fair enough. We want to get this thing started
We'll
and
do
go down the
better.
road.
We'll do better. I agree with you.
Mr. Lott.
Would it be possible to get them here
Yes, they'll be here
next meeting?
whenever you want.
Thank you, Mr. Welcome. All right. Is there any other new business to discuss? Does anybody have any new business? Seeing none, council committee reports.
I have one.
Go ahead, do it.
Human Services Committee met prior to this meeting this evening. We heard a presentation on Family First from Kevin Dolan from Children and Youth. We also heard an update on Graysdale and how their policies are being received. And that's it. And just anecdotally, I can't wait to go to GPA on Thursday morning. I asked Peg to take it over. She'll take it back.
Any other council committee reports?
I have a report on the ad hoc committee. We
Ad
met
hoc for what?
For industrial hemp.
Oh, okay. No, I'm sorry. I just forgot. Go
I know,
ahead.
you're like, I don't remember
I
that,
need
yeah.
some hemp, I guess. Go ahead.
Mr. Cusick and I were present, as were Brian Cope and several individuals from the community. We had a very successful meeting in trying to hash out some goals in an attempt to figure out what farmers need and also to find out what economic resources we have either through the county or through venture capitalists and funders who really want industrial hemp to flourish in this region. So I was really excited about that. We're going to have another meeting on May 14th at 10 a.m. at the same location at Penn State. Louise Moore Park and in the farmhouse. And so anybody is welcome to come to that meeting as well.
Okay. Any other committee reports?
I just wanted to thank Ms. Zirinsky for that meeting. It was very informative, and I think that it's interesting to know we do have several farmers that have gone out and got the permit that's necessary. of their own volition. So I think that there's an opportunity here. I think what we saw were two obstacles. The first one was where to purchase seeds and how to get them in the ground. And the other obstacle is harvesting. You can't just use the normal harvesting equipment, so that's going to be another obstacle. If they do get the seeds and get them in the ground, the ability to finance the equipment necessary to do the harvest is going to be something that they're going to face as well.
These are good problems to have.
Well, are we in the forefront of this hemp movement as far as a county?
I want to tell you no, but we're trying. I have found out a lot about hemp, and Lancaster County would be the one that's at the forefront. But around here, yes, we are ahead of Lehigh, we are ahead of Carbon. We may be ahead of Monroe. I'm not quite sure of that. But we do have a lot of people who regionally are interested in this project, and I think it's going to be really economically valuable for us to pursue, and especially in the Slate Belt, where there are a lot of farms, where there is a lot of potential for manufacturing and for processing. I think when you look at everything from end to end with this, that there's so many jobs that could be created from this, and so much potential, because we were growing industrial hemp about 100 years ago or so. So I think that we could just revive this industry here and move forward with it. I'm really excited. We had 28 people who wanted to be part of this, not all of which who showed up at that meeting, but since that time I've had more people come out and tell me how much they want to be part of this, and how they're really watching what happens with this committee and what happens with the information that we put together. So I'm really excited about it.
Very good. Great. Any other council or committee reports? Seeing none, any council liaison reports? Ms. Zirinsky.
I was at the Airport Board Authority meeting, and we're doing some great projects over there about the escalators. That's really important. There's an escalator rehab and 2 escalators that are going to be fixed. But more importantly, we passed a non-discrimination policy that included sexual orientation into the bylaws of the LNAA. And I was very proud of the discussion that we were able to have, and it was unanimous.
You have Attorney Freeberg as your solicitor over there, and I had no doubt.
I want to tell you, it was an uphill battle, and for the longest time, we did not think that we would get the 10 votes needed, and we got 14. One guy wasn't there, but you know.
Okay, well, very good. Very good. Oh, are you finished then?
I am finished.
Thank you. Mr. McGee.
Last Thursday, we had the Planning Commission meeting, and Ms. Tina Smith was there, and myself, and the rest of the Planning Commission board. They had on the agenda was the Gun Club Road warehouse development project, and it was actually the first time I saw it, and I haven't been on that board long, a little over a year. They actually unanimously voted against. You know, of course, the teeth of the Planning Commission doesn't, but it's a recommendation. And they picked out a lot of things that were wrong with this development project, such as 4 miles off the highway and some other things. And there was a lot of folks that live in that area that pointed out some things that weren't, just didn't make sense, just didn't add up. So. That was a pretty intense meeting with a lot of board involvement, and that's all.
Any other liaison reports? Or seeing none, Council Clerk report?
Nothing.
Council Solicitor report?
Nothing.
Before I adjourn, I did get a note, and in fairness, out of respect, I want to say that I got a note from Mr. Bruno, and he did want to clarify that he did not impugn the integrity of anyone up here. He didn't. It certainly wasn't his intent. He was discussing the company and those involved with the company. And we don't do rebuttal, but out of respect, I wanted to clarify what he had brought to my attention. So, all right. Is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion.
So move. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're out of here. Thank you.
That's awesome. What a great meeting. So happy to be alive. It's all that coffee I had before. I had so much coffee today.